What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Power Play with CJ. Today, I want to focus in on the Minnesota Wild Chicago Blackhawks first round series. Big showdown, old Norris Division. Back when they were the Minnesota North Stars, going head to head with the Blackhawks in the late 80s and 90s. They had some great teams, both of them did. Both of them actually went to the Stanley Cup Finals in consecutive years. Actually, Minnesota upset Chicago to get there in '91 in the first round, 1 versus 8 seed, I believe. Back when Mike Modano was Minnesota North Star. And the Blackhawks had names like Jeremy Roenick and Chris Chelios, Brian Noonan from Southie, Eddie the Eagle Belfour. They had a real cool nucleus. That they were one of those teams that didn't win the cup, and they had a great nucleus for a number of years. Kind of like the Boston Bruins teams around that era. They had some great teams, but just didn't, ran into some tough matchups. But let's talk about the here and now. I've been called a Minnesota Wild hater, I don't know how many times, but I don't like them going into this series. I like Chicago so much better. I think Minnesota should have been the 5 or 6 seed. I think they have that much talent, and they show some great chemistry for periods of time throughout the season. Great rookie play from Minnesota for both teams, and Brandon Saad is a stud. And I mean, I've been a Brandon Saad fan since 2009 when I started playing BU with the U.S. development team. Before he went to the Saginaw Spirit, he had all the looks of being a stud. He fell in the draft in Chicago, said thank you very much, and he's got a very, very, very bright future in front of him. And then Minnesota. I mean, I talked about Jonas Brodin I don't know how many times. I mean, I wasn't totally sold on him coming into the year. I had a broken clavicle in Houston for a little bit and missed the World Juniors, but by God, watching him play, and the stats don't jump out at you, but when you watch him play, it's like, the dude is good. And what's Stephen A. Smith? The dude can straight ball, and I think that's what you get with Jonas Brodin. It's like, holy, this guy he's on that Doughty, Carlson sort of like very, very, very talented teenage defenseman that could take a very big step forward in year 2. So. But like I said, back to the present, Charlie Coyle. I think Charlie Coyle is going to play very well in these playoffs because he's the power forward, because so much of his game is predicated upon great tenacity and, just pure straight ahead. None of that finesse stuff that, other forwards like Pat Kane depend upon. We'll talk about Kane in a second. And I think, for a playoff virgin, he'll show why he was the first round pick and why he's, been on the first line for many stretches in Minnesota. With Parise, with Koivu, and I think he'll be. It sounds weird, but his cousin is Tony Monty, and Tony Monty is a great Blackhawks player for years. So he's got that going for him. And I think with Chicago passed on him for fellow Massachusetts native Kevin Hayes, who is a very talented kid, but isn't. I mean, Charlie's on the first line of an NHL team in the playoffs. Charlie should put that on his shoulder and kind of go out there and say, you should have taken me. Not that he's, isn't in a great situation in Minnesota. Actually, Minnesota passed on him too for Granlund in the top 10 that year, but that's a different story entirely. But I'm going to take the Blackhawks in 5 with Kane, with Taves, with Duncan Keith, with Seabrook, with Leddy, with all those boys. I just think that this is a year for Chicago. I think they can win the West, although I think either one of those California teams could beat them in a 7-game series if push comes to shove. But I like the Blackhawks in the series. I'm going to take them in 5 games, and I think it'll be. I think it will be a tight 5 games, but I think the Chicago's championship pedigree will shine through. And guys that have been there and done that, like Kane and Taves, will. And Kane was 5th in the league in scoring this year. I didn't realize that until 1 hour ago. And this idiot was advocating trading him a year ago. Anyway, that's on some sort of Power Play with CJ Hawks in 5. Stay tuned for more episodes throughout the playoffs and beyond. Not the season anymore. We're going to get used to that. Later, guys.